Welcome to Voices in Learning. Let's explore what learning really sounds like. Our guest for today is Dr. Ife Bamidele.
Dr. Ifeoluwayimika Bamidele is a distinguished legal practitioner and associate professor of law, renowned for his extensive advocacy in drug abuse prevention and mental health across Nigeria and beyond. As the Chief Impact Officer of the Drug Free Project, he has empowered millions of young people through mentorship, counseling, and recovery support to ensure a brighter, substance-free future.
Thanks for coming to the show.
Thank you very much. It's good to be here.
Yeah, so we would like you to talk to us about substance abuse and how to raise awareness.
Thank you. Voices in Learning. The thing for me is how substance abuse directly affects learning.
Okay.
For us, young people are beginning to use or abuse substances, and it's starting to affect how they're learning. One person asked me recently, why are you very passionate about advocacy with regards to substance abuse? And something I told them was very simple. You have a child who used to be a distinction student, straight A's, and suddenly one substance, and then the child now becomes very, very poor in their academics. A child who used to be bubbly, excited about life, happy, suddenly that child no longer wants to be a part of anything that you are doing. So there's a very strong correlation between learning and the use of substances. And before now, people used to assume that, this was about people who were either in higher institutions, in tertiary education. But now we have people who in primary school, secondary schools, are now currently using substances. So I'm privileged. It's an opportunity for us to be able to speak about how substance abuse and learning are very, very interconnected. And we're hoping that at the end of the conversation, parents, educators, and those who are learners themselves will learn a few things and see how we can solve the problem together.
Okay, so from your experience, what do you think, what is the cause? What leads all these young people to substance abuse?
Okay, there's a lot of reasons. I mean, those who have done research, the United Nations Office on Drug and Crimes, the NDLEA, and then I'm also a researcher. I'm an associate professor of law, so I do research in drugs and drug abuse as well. So it's interesting to note that one of the very major things, especially for young people, is the fear of missing out. What we call peer pressure. I want to be like you. I like your glasses, by the way. And you know what happens with the glasses thing is, I want to look like you tomorrow. So if I see these glasses somewhere tomorrow, because I've seen it on your eyes, I want to look like it tomorrow. So we find young people who look at their friends, their colleagues, their neighbors, people who are their seniors. They look at TV, media, music videos, and what is it that we find that is popular on these things? Abuse of substances. So there's somebody who is singing about it, there's somebody who is posting about it, there's somebody on their snap so it just looks like the normal thing to do. I don't want to be left out. I want to be with my friends. So we talk about peer pressure, and that's the fear of missing out. So it's one of the major reasons why people actually do go into substance abuse. And you find a lot of young people who say, if I don't use, I'm going to be left out. I'm not going to be having any friends. Every time that somebody invites you out, oftentimes the guys who are going to call you like, let's go and have a drink. No, puff, pass. Oh no, you're not there. You are watching already understand. So there's
no puff, no. So
puff, pass. Okay. So it's like we're sitting.
I have a young boy, so I need to know when.
So we're sitting on a table, and then all you just need to do is pass it around.
Okay.
Most people who try the first time they try a substance, it's because they went for either a birthday party, an hangout, or some event of some kind where people are just experimenting. So that's another reason why people use substances. Apart from the fact that they see people do it, they say, let me try it. What is it that is even there? They say you'll be high, your head will swell, this thing will happen. Make I try it. Let me even see what is there. I will know whether truly. And then people try it. Depending on what situation or circumstance you find yourself in, sometimes those trials or experimentations have actually led to death. And in some cases, maybe not death, but loss of some part of their an organ, or a particular situation that is unbecoming. So we have people who, there's the peer influence, the fear of missing out, we have the experimentation. But importantly, with substance abuse, we also have sometimes people have emotional challenges where they ask themselves and say, oh, I'm not feeling myself, I don't like things that are happening to me, I'm depressed, I'm sad. And so somebody tells you, if you are sad, yes, let's get some high. If you are high, you will sleep and then you forget your sorrows. Unfortunately, people forget their sorrows just shortly before they sleep. When they wake up, there's some bigger sorrows that's waiting for them. So there's a lot of reasons that young people abuse or use or abuse substances, but these are some of the reasons. And genuinely, we must not just look at the problems, we must also now ask ourselves, how do we solve some of these problems? For peer influence or peer pressure, one of the things I say to people is, every time that people mention peer pressure, they think that peer pressure has to be negative. What I tell people is that there's also positive peer influence, which means that if I see that you're doing something good, I like the set of this podcast, I love the team that's working there, so I can also go and set up something similar and say, I'm impressed by what you're doing, I'm happy with what you're doing, and I want to be able to do the same thing. And so that's positive peer influence. And that's why we set up clubs, set up organizations where people who are doing well can go there and say, if you want to be like me, join us, be like me, and I don't use substances. It's really hard when you hear that some people don't use substances. One of the guys who were listening to, there was a chat recently on social media, and you will not be able to believe that Small Doctor know they use substance. Yeah, do you know who Small Doctor is? You know Small Doctor?
Musician, yeah.
Yeah. You can call me Small Doctor. Teacher. Where there was a conversation and he was talking about how there are people who you need to show the world who to say, oh, everybody's doing it. No, maybe not everybody's doing it. There are people who are not doing it, and then they need to come out more to say, I am not. And that way we'll find more people who will be able to say, oh, so it's actually possible. Because for the younger generation, it is becoming more difficult to believe that not all of us are doing it.
Okay, so is there any positive impact this substance does?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I mean, so the funny thing is that people assume that every time that we talk about don't use drugs, don't use substances, they think that it's all about moral gatekeeping, like, oh, this thing is a bad thing, don't do it. No. I'll give you an example. Alcohol is a substance that can be abused.
Okay.
But in many parts of the world, alcohol is licit. So it means that it's legal. However, there's more people who die from drunk driving.
Okay, drunk driving. Okay.
Right? So it means that it's not the alcohol that became the problem. It's the fact that after having taken the alcohol, you now take an action that puts you in danger, that puts another person in danger. Right? So it means that the benefit that I have gotten at this time, I feel good, I feel high, I feel excited. But the subsequent, so you do the cost benefit analysis, which is that whilst I feel good now, a young lady tells me and says, oh sir, one of the days that I hate the most in my life is the day that I took Colos. And I'm like, oh, Colos was supposed to make you feel good, it was supposed to make you feel high. But she said, okay, I took Colos, somebody who should not have had sexual relationships with me took advantage of me. I did not say no at the time because I was unable to take control of myself. Did I feel good about what I took? Yes. But do I regret my actions about that? Yes.
Okay. So the action that comes with
yes. So it's the subsequent things that occur after. So sometimes, I mean, you take a glass of wine or take a drink, a shot, and you just feel good. I forget my sorrows for today. Or you take a puff and then you're like, I'm going to go and sleep. Or somebody who is a musician comes up with an idea and then he says, every time that I use this substance, I'm able to flow well in the studio.
Then
I'm busting.
Inspiration.
And then the inspiration comes. The subsequent after that is inspiration, then you are not able to meet the requirements of a lifestyle that is required, like that's expected of you. You are supposed to travel, you don't meet the demands of that trip, or when you're supposed to face an interview or talk to somebody who is a superior or somebody who wants a contract that you're supposed to take with potential sponsors, you are now disrespectful at that same place. So you finally got the song, the person who is supposed to help you promote the song, you smash a cup on his head, then the song goes nowhere, you are locked up in prison. So how on earth does that benefit you? So it's that, yes, there might be temporary benefits like eyes. However, when we do the cost benefit analysis side by side, we begin to discover that it's a loss.
Okay, I also heard some medications could also be abused.
Oh yeah, so there's prescription drug abuse, and many of us are very, very guilty of prescription drug abuse. Paracetamol, something as small as that. But what has happened is that most of the time, most of the things that people now currently abuse as substances are things that were created to solve a particular medical problem. So when people started abusing cough syrups, the idea was that cough syrups were supposed to solve the problem of cough. I mean, it's supposed to be like, oh, I have a cold or a cough, and I'm supposed to use this particular medication, and it will solve it. But you now find people drinking 8 bottles of that same cough syrup. Is that for cough anymore?
No,
maybe not. And so we find people who are giving prescription painkillers. The thing starts curing your pain, and then later, after the pain thing, you now starts giving you a particular type of eye. So you find people who the thing started as prescription based. This was supposed to be medication, was supposed to be medicine. But because you now got so used to it, you begin to use a quantity that is not prescribed, or much more than just the quantity. You now begin to take other drugs because your body has gotten accustomed to that particular medicine, and then you now need to go further and further and further, and then thereby causing damage to the body. Our real concern is with how much damage it does to what your education, your work, your family life, your health. A husband that used to be nice, caring, friendly now becomes a wife beater. A wife who used to be nice, jovial, lovely mom, good sister, kind daughter, doesn't care about anybody anymore. That's the challenge. It changes people from...
So the addiction is the challenge.
Addiction is the last phase in that journey. So usually we start with experimentation, which is that, let's try this thing out. I don't know what it is, but let me try. Somebody comes with something, wraps it somewhere inside something, just say, just try, sniff it, pop it, cook it. So I try. Experimentation. Then sometimes people get into regular use and say, okay, this one is just whenever weekends, whenever I'm off work, before you know it, and then you now it becomes a compulsive behavior, and then you now get to addiction where the person is no longer in control of themselves. They are not, if they have 5,000 naira, 10,000 naira or money for food, they will choose that substance over food. And so it's a slippery slope. So starting it is the problem. It's not the addiction that's the problem. It's starting it. And you know what a slippery slope is? You know, when you start, you can't tell how
deep.
Yeah, so you just go on that slope and it's slippery. So you're just going and you're going and you're going, and before you know it, you are at the base of that slope.
Okay, so as a parent or a teacher or an educator, what are the signs you see in someone to know the person is struggling? Okay, to start with, how do you know someone is abusing substance, and what are the signs when the person is suffering silently?
Parents call and they ask that a lot of times. Evidence-based solutions suggest that there are scientific tests for us to be able to know. So we always start from that to say, okay, well, if you do a urine test, for example, hair follicle test or a blood test, we can tell whether a person is abusing substances or what type of substance they are abusing. But many parents will not go that far, or many educators will not start from there. So one of the things I tell people, for example, is drug paraphernalia. Drug paraphernalia.
Okay.
Your son has Rizla. Your son has lighter. Your son has crusher. So you know crusher? That's not
anything that crushes.
No. So you don't know. So your son has a crusher, your daughter has a crusher, and the crushers can come in different designs. So you think that something is just an earbud or just a wristwatch or something, but it's a crusher. So that crusher is supposed to be able to help me make my marijuana look in very good space, so that by the time I'm now finally putting my marijuana in the Rizla, it will be ready. All right. So your son has a crusher, your daughter has a Rizla.
Sorry, pause, please. While we are posting this episode, please let me put pictures of the crusher. So for parents like me,
I don't know what it looks like. Sorry about that. But that's the aim of this. I mean, the learning is not just for the children. It's not just for the educators. It's also for the educators, for the parents, for everybody. I mean, for all stakeholders in education. And I've had this kind of discussion with many parents, and genuinely they are lost.
I'm lost too.
So you drug paraphernalia. What are the things that your child has? How do you look at things that they have? What do they are buying paper. Rizla looks just like brown paper, but genuinely it's much more than brown paper. It's something that can help with substances. And then your child's favorite drink is a bottle of, you find used bottles of substances or packs of pills in your dustbin or in their room dustbin, and you find that they're popping pills. And this is not prescribed by any practitioner. So these are things that you have to look at to say, what's going on? Importantly also is drastic change in behavior. I think that's one of the greatest things that we have to look out for, and that's one of the things I beg educationists to do, because as educators, one of the things that you're able to do is to be able to determine or identify character of some of the words that are in your care. A child, this child, you know that every time that you raise a hand to high-five them, they are happy to high-five you, and then suddenly you put your high-five, the guy just looks at you like, And that's not a one-off. And this happens first time, second time, third time. You see that there's a drastic change. A child who used to do excellently before, they will answer questions, they will ask questions, they're inquisitive, and then suddenly they're just dull all day.
You need to check.
You need to find out, is there a reason that there's a flip? And sometimes it's even a quiet person, and then now that quiet person is now very violent, they're aggressive. You say anything, I'll punch you, I'll fight you, I cannot allow this to go. You're wondering,
calm down.
Calm down, what is going on? So this substance might be able to put them in a very difficult position. And then in some cases also, we have some mental health or emotional instability that can also come from use of substances. So a person who did not have suicide ideations before or did not have some emotional trauma before now begins to show some of those signs or symptoms. So it's important for parents to be able to look out and then to speak to professionals as well. In the situations where parents are not as open, they should also give access to counselors or other professionals who their words may speak to. So I've had parents who their children speak to me, I speak to the parents.
Okay.
And so I encourage people who are in education to serve as buffer for parent-children communication. In some cases, the children find it easier to speak to you because they believe that they will not be judged. Some years ago, the UNODC had a conversation with on the World Drug Day, and the theme was listen first. And so since that time, I had a session where I spoke on, and I've been speaking to parents and say, every time that there's something like that, I say, listen first.
Do not judge.
Listen, because oftentimes when parents don't listen, you don't even get to hear the depth of it. He wants to tell you about how he has been using this substance for the last 4 years. Then he now told you, just to test you, says, Mommy, do you know that today I did? Then you say, and then he's like, this woman is not yet ready. Let me allow her. So the information that you will have gotten, you probably will now not finally get. And you find parents who one day they call you from the university of your child, and then parents just collapse and like, what? You're telling me that this person has been using or selling, in fact.
Because some of them use as business because they make a lot of money from it.
That's the hard part, because substance abuse is not just behavioral, it's also economic. The amount of money that goes into the sale of substances makes it very, very hard to stop. Meaning that there are people who benefit, crimes who benefit from the sale of these substances, and that way it becomes more challenging for us. So it's a battle not just for the soul or the life of young people, but it's also something that we ask that governments, institutions be able to stand up to, so that we can protect the future of our nation.
Welcome to Voices in Learning podcast. Voices in Learning podcast is powered by Mieducation. So what are the things we do at Mieducation? So at Mieducation, we recruit teachers for school owners, for schools, for educational organizations, for families, and every other person that needs a teacher. We have an online platform where we have online classes for people abroad and people in Nigeria. We also recruit governesses called Living Teacher for parents who want education outside the classroom in their homes. We also do trainings for support staff in schools, in organizations, and also for families. So contact us today at Mieducation on our social media platforms or via WhatsApp. You can also call us on this number below. So if you want to say the youngest person you've had a conversation with, how old?
I think we've had maybe say 8 or 9 year old.
What?
Yeah.
In primary school?
Primary school. And the saddest part of that is, let me shock you. In one of the instances, it's because a parent had been asking their ward to go and collect something from a dealer.
8-year-old?
Yes. Say, Loba mi gba ọjà wá. Loba mi gba ọjà wá. In Yoruba, Southwest Nigeria, that means go and collect this market or this thing for me. Now, the child, out of being inquisitive, one of the days decided that this thing that they've been asking me to go and collect,
I want to know
what is it?
Hey, God.
That's their first encounter. In counseling, that is how we discovered that child was using. The second instance, it was from a big brother in the neighborhood. The big uncle sends the child to say, go and buy this thing. Now, when the child goes to buy, when the child comes back, the uncle gives the child huge sums of money. So the child is saying, what is it that is as important that the commuting of it will earn me this? Let me also join this uncle and go and buy for myself. At least I will know this thing that is being sold. So younger people are observing, they are learning by association. So they see what occurs and then they want to try. I mean, most of the young people in some of the states that we have been to walk streets and then pick used half-smoked cigarettes, light it, and try to experience what it is. They go by event centers, parties, check bottles, and try to have a drink or a sip of whatever is left in the bottles. And so parents must be careful about what it is that they are doing right in front of their children.
Very important.
Some days ago, and recently, we had a conversation with a top citizen who was talking about an experience that she had in America, and surprisingly, it has started showing forth here. Nursing women who were pregnant, who were using substances, are giving back to children who were already born with some form of addiction. So the child is born, but the child is already addicted to a substance or showing some form of withdrawal symptoms because when the woman was pregnant, she was using substances that had effect on the child. So you have people who genetically are now born with it. So that's babies. So in practical terms, 8-9 year olds, but now in hospitals, children are born because women are pregnant. They're using substances, and so the child is already born, and the child will test positive to substances even at birth.
Wow.
Yeah.
So in terms of children, I've been talking about so I can look out for my son. So what about the girls? How do you think girls are also? When we started the drug-free project and the campaigns around and about, people will say, "Oh, those boys." But genuinely, sorry to disappoint you, but we have a lot of young ladies who definitely are using substances and are abusing substances in their number. Sadly, it has even become more challenging, especially in some parts of Nigeria, for women to get help. So there's more people who remain in addiction because they are afraid to come out. Some of them are wives, some of them are mothers, and so they are not able to get help and remain addicted for a longer period because people believe that, this is something that a woman should not be doing. So she's already addicted instead of getting help. If it's a son or a man, they say, this man is doing this, he should get help. And so they get help. But the woman continues to hide. And so there's a lot of women. I mean, in some of the data, the statistics show up to 40-something% vis-a-vis men. And in some of the guys as well, I was speaking to a young man recently, and he told me that he started using substances because his girlfriend used to say, you know tough, your guys they bad, you they look like boo. So the girl was the one who started using and then introduced her boyfriend, and she felt that if a guy was going to be a real guy or a guy's guy,
then he had to be able to show up. And so to be able to, and then, there's currently a desire to meet up with economic standards around the world. People want to buy new phones, they want to buy new wigs, they want to live fly, they want to buy new clothing, you want to show off on Instagram, on Snapchat, on TikTok. And so people are trying all their effort. So whatever it is that will bring me additional money, whatever it is that will put me in the circle of people that look like they're enjoying life, I'm going to do it. So even if that means sniffing things, I mean, there was one of the girls who was explaining a situation where the first time she ever used a substance was they went for an audition for a movie somewhere, and a young man, instead of asking people to come and audition, put lines of cocaine, and they were competing as to who can drag this line without missing out, and he will give them $100. If you can do it, I'll give you money. If you can do it, I'll give you money. Unfortunately, that was how many people started. There's somebody who is always enabling, and so a lot of young ladies who want to be a part of society, who want to look nice, look fly, are trying substances for the first time, and it puts them at higher risk because of abuse, physical or domestic abuse, sexual abuse, and so those things happen. Men who know that they will not normally have been able to have access to some of these young ladies now spike their drinks. In fact, in some cases, if you go online now, people are cooking meals with substances. So they'll there's videos on TikTok that show where somebody will offer you a drink and you do no. They offer you a pill, you say no. Then the person will say, hold on. They'll go into the kitchen, start cooking, pour those things that you refused inside the meal, and then serve it to you. Then they'll show before and after. The person who normally was talking, gisting, the person has already knocked off, and then they can now be violated and abused. And one of the things that we must think about is how to protect our girl children and women in society.
I even heard about a baker that does brownies.
The NDLEA arrests people on a regular who have come up with fantastic ways to pass substances across. There was one of the Yoruba popular OAPs who was talking about having gone to a particular wedding, and that he told them at the wedding that, I don't drink, I don't drink anything, just give me zobo. And then by the time they served him the zobo, he said his head started turning on his own. So people are eating cakes, people are eating cookies, people are eating biscuits, anything that you can think of. People are willing to put some form of psychoactive substance in it to make you feel different, and then to make you a continued customer.
Okay, so what will you say to a young lady or a young guy that wants to be out there? I want to be around my friends.
Yeah.
I believe I'm not safe.
Yeah.
Because everywhere is contaminated. Yeah. So how can I feel among without getting involved with all this?
So one of the things that we didn't learn much of as younger people was assertiveness skills. Many of us are not assertive enough. There's a 2-letter word that I ask that educators, parents, teachers, fathers, mothers teach their word, and that friends also share and often, and it's no.
No. Okay. Learn to say no.
No. Just 2-letter word, but most of us find it very difficult to say, will you be able to see me at 9 p.m? Will you be? No. No. Sorry, no. Many of us have taken decisions that have put our life at risk just because we cannot say no. Assertiveness skills is something that we must teach children, young people across the world. I always use examples of soda, the drinks that we buy. When I go into a shop, you pick your own favorite soda. I pick my own favorite one. But when it is time for us to now use a substance, if I say I'm not using, then you think that I'm the enemy. Choices must be respected. Let people who are around you know your preferences. Before you even get there, they already know, this person, they do this kind. So, and what I've discovered is that if they discover that you are genuine, you are confident, and you are not pretentious, because sometimes we're also deceiving. They know the real you. They say, fake. When we get to his house, we know what he's doing. So if you are genuine, if you are consistent, it's helpful for people to know. Your friends,
this is where you stand for.
I mean, there are people who go to bars, they sit, Immediately you see it, they say, this person is fish, he will eat, he doesn't eat meat. This person, he will prefer goat meat. This person, he will prefer liver.
Sure, just like allergy.
This person doesn't eat fried dodo. This person doesn't eat nuts. So let it also be the same with some of these things. When they are passing the thing, say, okay, water for this person or wine for this person, it will not be using this. I mean, and then people, once the people are certain that you will not, they let it go. In some cases, however, I request that people who are finding it hard to seek counseling support. I'll give you an example. One of the young men who had used drugs for 4 academic sessions in one of the institutions where I went to speak told me and said, in the room where I live, there's 3 other people. They no go agree. They won't take my no for no. So I said, this holiday, we'll stage something. When you're going back to school, you tell them that you had a medical condition. And from that medical condition, your doctor said that you should not smoke again. No? When you go back to school, before you go back to school, I'm texting them, I spent 1 month in hospital. Hey, in my life. So immediately you go back to school. When they want to smoke or do something, they are the ones who will tell him, no die for our abeg. They even ask him to leave in some cases to say, well, I hope say you know they come from hostel. Hope you are not back. Just to be able to protect him as well. I mean, not all the friends will be like that, but if you will put that to your friends and they still insist that you should do that,
they want you dead.
Then you know that they want you dead. You shouldn't be friends with those people.
Okay. So for someone that addiction is a stigma.
Yeah.
For someone that is addicted.
Yeah.
And the person is shy. I don't know who to talk to.
Yeah.
So what is your advice?
Recovery is possible. That's one of the things I first tell people. I'm a recovery advocate, so I tell people that there are people who have used substances, popular people around the world, who have used substances at one point in time of their life or the other. I have friends, colleagues, and in our team we also have people who we call persons with lived experiences, and we take them to educational institutions to speak to young people to say this is it. So what I recommend is when a person is in that situation, they should seek help, speak to a professional. Right. So there are not-for-profit organizations like ours, like the NGOs that we have. There are also hospitals or facilities that have professionals who help people to go through. For example, we do pre-rehabilitation counseling. The rehabilitation itself, and then there's post-rehabilitation support. Because when people come out from rehabilitation, sometimes you have spent 1 year in rehab, and then after that 1 year in that rehab, you want to come out, and then all your friends are looking at you like, you just did come back from rehab. So you need support. You need friends who will reach out for you, people who will look out for you, and genuinely, that definitely helps.
Well, I have a concern, and my concern is for people who have seeked, as in they came for help and they've gone to rehab, they're out of rehab, and they are still addicted, as in they're coming back and they're going back into this drug. So what do you think families, educators, parents can do in situations like that? At least we can't lock them in a room that you're not going out. Because I know of someone that had gone to rehab, everything went well, the family decided not to give the child cash, and they were monitoring the child. So at the end of the day, people saw the child struggling, and Nigerians, I really pity this person. Let me just give this person small cash, and before you know it, the person has gone back to it. Is it that rehab doesn't kill it? What will you say about that?
Addiction is a revolving door. You know what a revolving door is? You know those doors that they put in some of those malls? Some people, they go round and round and round. Some people are able to come out. Some other people don't. They remain in. We're speaking today off camera about mosquitoes and malaria. Some people treat malaria, and then the malaria parasite is still in their system. Do you kill them because they still have a malaria parasite in their system? So one of the things that we must acknowledge is that addiction is a disease. It's a health condition. The WHO acknowledges that drug addiction is a health challenge. And so while some people will be ill, if I have cancer or malaria or kidney issues, some people will be ill totally, and then they'll be fine. They'll be able to move on from there. Other people may have relapse. Say, initially there was a mastectomy, and then unfortunately that same cancer has been discovered somewhere else. So in some situations, you find people who have been addicted before, they've gone through rehabilitation, and then they have a relapse. Some have had multiple relapses. Some have been privileged enough, and then they're able to go out. But where the major challenge occurs is with what happens post-rehabilitation. Oftentimes than not, many people are not prepared for outside of rehabilitation. Rehabilitation oftentimes limits people to a confined space. And so people are not able to simulate what will happen in real society. In some cases, there's a lot of role play, there's a lot of training, there's a lot of ascertaining skills, but outside, you now have to face that challenge. And that's where oftentimes with counseling and support, there's a need to put together the people or the community that person is a part of, to be a part of that person's rehabilitation process. True. In some of the rehabilitation centers, we have discussions with family. They will do what they call family counseling or family therapy, where your family members also know what is going on with you and how they can support you. And then there's some gradual easing into society, skill acquisition, learning. I mean, somebody comes back from rehab and they still don't have any skill. They don't do anything. They're not busy. It's easier for them to go back to what they were doing. In one of the cases, one of the young ladies who went for a rehabilitation messaged me recently and said, "Oh, I got a job." I was so happy because I know that immediately she gets that job, it reduces her chances. The more she doesn't have a job, the higher the chances that somebody will invite her somewhere. And not only that, economic power as well means that she will not have money. So if somebody offers her to say, "Let's go for lunch or let's go for dinner, but after we're going to stop by her somewhere," she'll say, "I'm not doing anything at home. Let me just do this." And so, yes, recovery is possible. Rehabilitation works, but rehabilitation is a revolving door, and addiction is a medical condition. So it means that people can relapse. However, post-rehabilitation support helps to promote the effect of recovery and rehabilitation.
It makes sense for some of us that we start January with
yes, that those who started January, that some people have stopped their diet plans already. Some people started going to gym January 1, 2, 3, fit farm, healthy living, and then by January 10, 15,
everything will come back
in the mud.
So I understand. Okay, so Dr. Ife, I would like you to talk to us about your the drug-free project. Yes.
Yeah. So one of the things that motivated the drug-free project for us is how, as a people, we have always lent in on problems. Every time somebody says, "Oh, I see somebody is smoking this, all the children in this country, all the women in this country, problems. Everybody knows the problem. Then who comes up with the solution?"
Okay.
That was how we came up with the drug-free project. It was about, if we know that there's an existing drug problem in the room now, in the studio, from people who are watching, almost everybody who is watching knows somebody who has a problem with substance abuse. But what are they doing about it? So we say, we are not going to be part of those who are going to continue to complain. Let's find a solution. What's the problem? The problem is that young people are using substances and this is affecting their life, and some of them are actually dying. So let's solve this problem. How do we solve it? Two-pronged approach. One is advocacy. For the people who have not used at all, let's go to educational institutions. We say we even thought we'll start with secondary schools and tertiary institutions. But by the time we entered the field, we discovered that we needed to start from primary schools. That's why we started developing age-appropriate documentation, like the coloring book I mentioned, where we said, okay, people will now start, we'll give children things to be drawing, so how to say no, all those kind of things. So we said we're going to do all 100 educational institutions. We're going to map the 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory, visit workplaces, because surprisingly, the students who used to be in tertiary institutions before now and were using substances have now started working. And so you find out that in some of the government establishments as well as private establishments, some of the reasons for disciplinary decisions in those workplaces is substance abuse. So we are going to make workplaces doing discussions, having in one of the, in fact, including breweries. In one of the breweries, we had a discussion with their staff on substance abuse policies. So we're asking workplaces, develop a workplace substance abuse policy. If you are a school, what is the workplace substance abuse policy? If you are a company, what is your company's workplace substance abuse policy? So we develop a policy for workplaces, by in educational institutions, as part of advocacy. And then for recovery and rehabilitation, advocacy is one part. That's for people who have not used and who are about to make a decision. Then we now go to people who have used or who have had lived experiences and say, okay, a person who has used, how can we get through with recovery and rehabilitation? And so we're moving towards stakeholders, in recovery and rehabilitation centers. We've visited some traditional rulers. We've been to about 12 states in the last 200 days. Met with stakeholders like the NDLEA. We're working with other international NGOs and national NGOs as well to be able to reach out to people. But our real desire is to ensure that nobody dies from using drugs or substances. I have a story of an experience that I had. I met a woman some time ago, and it was one of the turning points for the drug-free project. This woman had just one son, her only son. She had lost her husband some years before then, and it was some days to her 50th birthday. Her son had just graduated in a Nigerian university, and you know when they finish graduation, you do that thing that they do. They do signing out. Everybody's happy. You are drinking. You are eating. So they did some mixtures with the friends.
Oh my God!
He took the mixture and he put his head on a table. His friends thought maybe he was high. Unfortunately,
he died.
He was gone.
Oh my God!
They called this woman some days to her 50th birthday that her son was sick. You know the way they call people in Nigeria. Her son was not sick. He was dead. So what she had was the lifeless body of a son she had sent to school for 4 academic sessions.
Oh my God!
Some days to her 50th birthday. No husband, no child.
Where will she start from?
His story is replicated in many families. For some, the person is not dead, they are alive, but they're in a very difficult situation. And so that's why we are standing up to the occasion to say, let's meet with government establishments, let's meet with traditional institutions, let's go to educational institutions, let saying no to substance abuse be the new norm. When you turn on your TV, you turn on your TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat, all of the social media platforms, it has become normalized.
People do it and they
easily.
Yes,
you understand?
they're even proud of it.
So what we're now saying is, where are the people who are not using? Can we have a voice? Can we normalize not using? Can we promote this drug-free choice? And that's what we're doing with the drug-free project.
So how can I reach out to you for if I have a child that is addicted or someone around me that is addicted? How can I reach out to you?
So one of the things that we have done is, we have a website, is www.drugfreeproject.org.
Okay.
www.drugfreeproject.org.
The drug-free or
no, drug-free project.
Drugfreeproject.org.
One of the things that we are doing is we're raising an army. What we call an army is, we have a war against drug abuse. So we're raising volunteers.
Okay.
One of the things that we've done is, we said when we started, we will raise, for a start, 1,000 active volunteers.
Okay.
And in the last 200 days, we have had 950 people from across different states in Nigeria who have come up to say, I want to be part of this thing. I've been either affected or I don't want to be affected. I want to be part of those who are advocating against it. So we're raising volunteers.
Okay.
Alongside volunteers, we're also asking for partners. So we're partnering with like Voices in Learning, we're partnering with organizations, institutions, establishments, workplaces to say, we want to be a part of this. We don't want our future staff to use substances or to be at risk of substance. I don't want my child to meet somebody who will put him in a difficult place. I don't want to go and carry the dead body of my son. Because of that, I'm going to invest my time and my resource in this. So we're looking forward to having, alongside volunteers, we're having people who fund us, sponsors, partners. So when we go to educational institutions, when we have educational materials, because it's also one of the things that pass the message across, stickers, biros, exercise books. We have some exercise books that were produced. We're going to give them in the school. And then interestingly, we have something that we have done that is very unique to the organization. It's called the Drug-Free Pledge.
Okay.
We have a pledge where when we go to schools, when we go to schools, we ask the young people to say that pledge. That pledge is their commitment to saying no to substance abuse. And so what I tell them when we go to some of those institutions to say, now you have pledged. Don't make sure that your parents don't call us to say that they found you using. You have made a commitment, you signed that pledge. Our desire is to have at least 1 million Nigerians sign the drug-free pledge. As of now, we have over 4,000 or thereabout. Our 1,000 active volunteers are trying to get more people to sign the drug-free pledge. And our desire is that in the course of the next 1 year, we'll be able to reach 20 million Nigerians.
Those watching this
podcast,
let's start with pledge. So can you tell us, give us the pledge?
No, the pledge is I'll send the link. We'll put the link on the screen. www.drugfreeproject.org/pledge, and then you can sign the pledge and submit. And then on a regular basis, what we do with the pledge is that we send you a reminder. So we say that on January 20 dash.
You
signed the drug. Are you still keeping the pledge? Okay. So for somebody who probably was going on their way to go and collect something, you know, or to go and, you learned that one today. Puff. It's not puff. It's puff pass. But don't worry, I hope that you are not going to be in any circle where they are puffing.
No. I understand what it is. So no.
Yeah, so it's and we're hoping that all the other young people who are listening to us and watching are able to learn the no and are able to live with great joy, making strong choices that protect their future and, importantly, their lives. Substance abuse changes lives. It does change lives. And so if you want to make a decision, it's important for you to weigh the costs and the benefits. This is a very big project, so I know you need a lot of investors. Yeah. So do you have... As in, are you okay in terms of investors? So one of the things that we say is, I'm hoping that before we leave here, that Voices in Learning will write a small check. How much is money? That they'll write a small check for us. But genuinely, one of our greatest desires is to be able to have a resource to be able to move around. The challenge is bigger than we ever thought it was. It's from the youngest to some of the very old people. I mean, we have the NDLA arrested an 80-year-old woman that was selling substances very recently, 70-year-olds, 60-year-olds, and then we have babies. So it means that this thing has the capacity to affect you from when you are born till when people die. And so all of the help that we can get, all of the resource that we can get, all of the support that we can get, all of the funding that we can get, we're looking forward to strong organizations, groups, and individuals who are willing to be able to partner with us to ensure that we can reach out. And then if you have an educational institution, we can also come around to speak at the educational institution, raise people who are there. We set up drug-free clubs in schools as well, which become like positive peer influence. So in the school, when we are no longer there, from amongst themselves, peer support also helps. That's one of the things I tell young people. Make sure that you are not the only one who is telling your young ones. From amongst themselves, they should also be able to tell themselves and say, oh no, this thing is not right. They listen more to them. Sometimes when they look at you, they say, you are old school. Exactly. I know that there was a time when you were not old school. We were not old school some years ago, but now your children are going to look at you. I have a 10-year-old, and then she's going to think, my daddy is not... He's not outside. Yeah. Daddy is inside. Okay, so we're outside and we're still drug-free. We need sponsors for the drug-free project. It's a big project, and we don't know. It can affect some. It will definitely, if someone we know, someone that we know, or the funny thing is that when people think that, I spoke in Abeokuta and I told people, and I said the same thing in Mieducation when we went to Mieducation. We've been all the way, and so I said it in those two places. You think that you are not affected. Somebody says, I don't use, my child doesn't use, God knows, my husband does not use, my house, we are children of God. And then the person enters Bolt or Uber or Okada. And the person who you enter their Okada has just finished collecting. And then he sees a curb on the road. Instead of going by the curb, he sees the curb and he sees road. He just slams into it, and then your head is on the coal tar. Something that you did not plan. Yeah. That's how some people died. That's how some people lost a limb. So all of us are directly affected. There's another driver on the road. There's a person who is making decisions about your life. There's your doctor who is trying to treat you. Then we've had situations about people who are flying aircraft. So imagine if your pilot decides that he's not going to be, they would have checked them. You want to believe that we will not get into those conversations, but these are real issues that organizations are currently facing, and so don't wait until you are directly affected. And if you're already directly affected, recovery is possible. So it doesn't have to be an organization for you to support. No. We're having individuals. Most of the support that we've gotten in the last 200 days. With regards to resource, with moving around, printing, publications, some of the drawing books that we've had, some of the notebooks that we've given to schools, they're individuals. Individuals wake up and say, this thing either has affected me or I know somebody who has affected, I want to put power of the resource. And we're a registered non-governmental organization, so monitored by government, and then we have transparency and accountability as well. So we release our periodic reports about how we spend the resource in public and then with the government institutional agencies. So we have categories of partners depending on how much they are willing to give, from as low as 1,000 to as much as 1 billion. Everybody here is going to contribute before we'll be happy to project. Okay. So in conclusion, what would you like to tell the viewers? There's something that we say every time that we go to educational institutions, workplaces, say no to drugs, say yes to life. And that is very important. It is life vis-a-vis drugs. So it means that for every time that you say yes to drugs, you might be saying no to life. Say yes to life, say no to drugs. Say no to drugs, say yes to life. Thank you so much. It's been a privilege.
Thank you for joining us on Voices and Learning. I would love to know what stood out for you. Connect with me, share your thoughts, and let's keep the conversation going. Until next time, let's keep exploring what learning really sounds like. Thank you.